Good day, everyone. I am Eliza Martin Chavez, and today I will be discussing about the Chapter 10, the principles and strategies of teaching and designing IEP for learners with difficulty walking and moving. So, this chapter focuses on delving the different approaches, methods, and services given to learners with difficulty walking and moving. And as we all know, learners with difficulty walking and moving, they have varied educational needs. And this needs includes the physical access. So when we say physical access, this is the ability of the learners to physically enter and navigate the school buildings and classrooms. Since they are those learners having difficulty with walking and moving, they may face challenges when they enter and navigate the school. And one of those challenges that they might encounter is when it comes to stairs, narrow roadways, and facilities which can hinder their participation in educational activities, and also the access to or lack of technological equipment. Learners having difficulty walking and moving, they need assistive technologies to support their learning, and the absence of those resources can limit their participation in educational activities. And the classroom and school program participation. Since these learners having difficulty walking and moving, they might encounter challenges when it comes to group activities and even in extracurricular activities due to their physical limitation. The next one is the limited workstation and proper setting accommodation. So adequate workstation and proper setting accommodation is necessary with those learners having difficulty moving and walking so they could comfortably participate in lessons and activities. Dapat sa isang classroom, nakakaupo sila ng maayos and they should have a proper space for them to learn. The absence of suitable learning space can impede their focus while learning. Not meeting class schedules and time transitions. Since nahihirapan silang maglakad and they cannot move properly, so they may also face challenges when it comes to transitioning classes. So, ang nangyayari, they may arrive late or they may miss important discussions, and this can disrupt their learning. The next one is the classroom and school program participation. Kasi nga na nahirapan silang maglakad and they are also having difficulty moving. So, hindi sila nakakasabay sa mga normal na estudyante. And malaking impact ito sa kanila.
Each students have distinct way of learning. That's why, as future educators, we should know these two important key terms in order for us to cater well their needs, especially those learners with special needs. And this is somehow confused. These two words somehow confused by teachers and learners. So now I will explain these two key terms and what are the difference of these two key terms. So the first one is the accommodation. So when we say accommodation, if it helps the learner to complete the same work at the same level as his peers, that's what we call accommodation. For example, a student with dyslexia listens to the audio version of the book that his classmate was reading. So if it is the same materials and the same level as his peers or as his classmate, that is what we call accommodation. So in modification, if it changes the work where the work is completed at a different level, is modification. So unlike accommodation, in accommodation, di ba? Kasi accommodation, the same materials but different styles of teaching. That is accommodation. But in modification, they don't have the same materials given to students. So, for example, student A receives simple test paper than student B. If the materials is not the same and it is completed at a different level, that is what we call modification. And now let's proceed to the services, modifications, and approaches provided to learners with difficulty moving and walking. So the first one is the health professionals, which is the physical therapist. So physical therapists are licensed professionals that use treatment techniques to help promote mobility, reduce pain, restore function, and prevent further disabilities of learners with difficulty walking and moving. So in physical therapies, they are the one who motivates the learners to be independent as possible. So they suggest sitting sitting positions and classroom activities or exercises that both learners with or without disability can do. So the next one is the occupational therapist. So these professionals determine the learner's goals in life and help them perform daily activities. So unlike the physical therapists, occupational therapist focuses on the daily activities. For example, uh, they help them perform in daily activities such as the self-help, taking a bath, hygiene, recreation, communication, and aspects of daily living. So, occupational therapists, they guide the learners develop their motor skills through activities such as baking and typing on a computer, keyboard, and the difference between physical therapist and occupational therapist is that in physical therapist, they focus on the physical aspect of the learner to help them mitigate, to help them learn efficiently when they are in classrooms. While in occupational therapists, they are the one who help the learners with difficulty moving and walking to perform their daily activities.
So here are the environmental modifications that we could utilize so that those learners having difficulty moving and walking could mitigate and cope up with their environment. So the first one is have classroom located in more accessible buildings, meaning the classroom should be located in areas that is accessible for those learners having difficulty walking and moving. For example, the classroom should be located in first floor rather than on second or third floor. Then relocate activities to more spacious areas. So the activities should be done in areas which is more spacious so that they could join the activities without any hassle. And in grouping activities, let the able learners move to the location of the learner with physical disabilities and make sure that they have enough space to collaborate. So meaning those individuals, those formal students should be the one should adjust themselves so that those learners having difficulty moving and walking uh, could join the activities without any hassle. So next is the adjust desk, chairs, and tables appropriate to the height of learners that use wheelchairs. So adjustment should be done for those learners having difficulty walking and learning within the classroom area, especially those students with wheelchairs. So the teacher should adjust the desk, chairs, and tables so that the learner could participate comfortably in class lessons and activities. Then provide adequate floor space for learners that use wheelchairs in the front, on the side, or in the rear of the room so they can park without blocking the flow of the traffic. So meaning they should have their own area wherein they could freely park without blocking the flow of traffic. And modify response requirements by allowing spoken instead of written ones, vice versa. And since they are those learners having difficulty walking and moving, the teacher uh, should consider the response in spoken form or written ones. Then provide a resource room where learners with physical disabilities can go when needed during the school day to work with their school requirements or the members of their IEP. So there should be a special area for those students having the physical limitations so that they could put their materials within that area so that they could also so that they could also work comfortably because they have a special space for them. And these are the assistive technology that those learners having difficulty walking and moving could utilize. So the first one is immobility, the mouth stick. So this is a device manipulated with mouth that allows users to control input. So this is the example of the mouth stick. And the next one is the head wand. So this is a device similar to mouth stick, except that the head manipulates it. So this is the example of the head wand. And in communication, these are the assistive technology that those learners having difficulty walking and moving could utilize. So the first one is the speech recognition software. So this is a software that creates text and navigates online by voice commands, usually used by learners with limited mobility. So the speech recognition software converts words spoken into a microphone into machine readable format. And the next one is the speech generating device. This is a standalone device or software that installed in tablets where users who are not able to speak on their own can communicate to others. So an example of this are those apps that converts words into a readable format. So I guess that ends my report. So thank you.
Hello everyone, this is Kinitin V. Durante from BE Ed 1A, and today we're going to tackle about inclusive classroom approaches. Some learners with severe impairments are attended in homebound or hospital education programs, regarded as most restrictive placements, while others are in special classes with smaller class sizes, more adapted equipment, and easier access to professional services. The least restrictive environment, where there is more interaction to learners without disabilities, is the regular classroom. Below are some ways in handling learners with physical disabilities in the regular classroom. The first one is to observe. We need to observe the learner with physical disabilities in the classroom and ask if any assistance is needed. And if yes, offer help if needed, but don't assume that they always prefer to have others' support. The second one is use accurate and sensitive terminologies. We need to use accurate and sensitive terminologies in the classroom as learners with or without disabilities. Learn from the teacher's knowledge and attitudes. So we need to be sensitive because para ma-feel nila nga um, belong sila, so include sila sa isa ka classroom, so we need to use accurate and sensitive terminologies. Third one is use simulation and role play activities where able learners are given opportunities to use wheelchairs and other assistive devices to help raise awareness of some barriers their classmates are facing. So we need to to use role play activities because for them to feel nga dili sila naiiba, and nga kaya nila i-conquer ang barriers or disability nga na sila. Fourth one is when conversing, make eye contact, smile, and make sure that your head is at or below the eye level of the learner using wheelchair. So, dapat, kung when we are conversing, dapat makig-eye contact jud ta, and smile, and dapat i-make sure jud nato nga ang atong ulo is below the eye level of the learner nga naggamit og wheelchair. Sit or crouch near the learner but do not lean. Dili lang kita mag-lean sa ilang shoulder para dili ma-invade ang ilang personal space. Next, make sure that reasonable in-between breaks are given to these learners for travel time purposes. Plan class schedules before the school year starts so as to minimize travel time and distance between classes. So dapat i-planohan dyan na ito ang atong class schedules. Next, allow learners who have difficulties in writing to record class lectures or to have note takers. So, sa mga naay problem sa writing, so pero na sila dapat i-allow na to nga mag-record sila sa class lectures or na sila taga-take note. Create task accommodations in the form of extra time or the use of word processor. Next, involve learners with arm and dexterity problems. When we say dexterity, it refers to any physical disability that limits the physical function of one or more limbs. So, we need to involve learners with this kind of problems in laboratory classes and pair them with able learners who can carry out procedures. So dapat i-pair nato sila sa mga able or kanang naikakayahan nga mag-carry out sa procedures. In this way, learners with disabilities can learn and are actively involved except on physically manipulating laboratory materials. Last one is work with learners with physical and health impairments to arrange for appropriate time for completion of class assignments. So, let's move to the next topic, the teachers' beliefs, attitudes, and values toward inclusion of learners with physical disability. The beliefs, attitudes, and values of teachers and other school staff toward inclusion of learners with physical disability are important as they shape how they teach and respond toward these learners. There are many factors that could shape teachers' beliefs and attitudes. These include their personal experiences, as well as the larger environment of the school, the community, and culture. Thus, in understanding how teachers view inclusion of learners with physical disability, we should also take a look at the larger perspective. There are a variety of ways children with physical disabilities can be integrated. They can be placed on the same side but kept separate, or this is what we call locational integration. Ikapila natin yung discuss nga ang mga bata is na lang sa isa ka room but na specific nga place kung asa sila mupwesto. Second is the social integration. They can be mixed at social times. Example ani pag recess kanang ting lunch na ngana. Or they can be placed in the same classes as their peers, or academic integration. The needs of children with physical disabilities should be seen as a continuum, depending on their needs. Those with less severe difficulties could be partially integrated and included in mainstream schools. The development of inclusion has put into action the following principles. Number 1, all children attend the school to which they would go if they had no disabilities. So, kaning part sa principles, dili na ako siya discuss og maayo kay sabotable naman kay siya, so ako na lang siyang basahon. Number 2, a natural proportion of children with disabilities occurs at any school. Number 3, no child should be excluded on the basis of a disability. Number 4, school and general education placements are age appropriate, with no self-contained special educational classes operating in the school site. Number 5, cooperative learning and peer teaching methods receive significant use for general teaching practice at the school. And the last one, number 6, special educational support, teachers and teaching assistants are provided with the context of the general educational class and other inclusive environmental. So that concludes my part, and that's all. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I am Angie. My topic is parents' experience of enabling participation of their children with physical disability. Indeed, the goal of inclusive education is to enable the participation of learners with disabilities, gifts, and talents not only in school but in the wider context of home and community. And parents play a very important role in it too. A study by Peace Corps colleagues 2016 looked at the role of parents in terms of their participation in various contexts, including school, home, and community. This involves their thoughts, feelings, and concerns, reflecting on their actions, challenges, and needs in enabling their child participation in this context. Findings of in-depth interviews reveal that among the parents' major concerns are those related to systems, laws, and regulations, and experiences and thoughts about the physical and or social environment, and experiences and feelings of finding or enabling an activity. It's truly inspiring na makita nimo ang mga parents how they support their children with physical disabilities. They are the pillars of strength for their children and play a crucial role in enabling their participation in various activities. Parents often advocate for their children's rights, ensuring they have equal opportunities in education, sports, and social activities. They also provide emotional support, helping their children to build resilience and confidence. However, it's important to note that this journey can also be challenging. Parents may face societal prejudices, financial burdens, and emotional stress. It's essential that they also have access to support networks and resources to help them navigate these challenges.
Good day everyone, I am Eve Marie Marcelo from BE Ed 1A. Now, let's talk about promoting positive social interactions between children with and without physical disabilities in school.
Although inclusive education intends to integrate and promote social interactions between children with and without disabilities, children with disabilities may still feel socially isolated. So, bisan pa man nga gina-promote or gina-integrate sa inclusive education ngay uban ang katunay mga disabilities and without disabilities, ma-feel gyapon sa mga disabilities nga lahi sila. It is because makita man nila kung asa lang ilang kaya mabuhat. And there are times po nga dili suit ang uban nga activities sa naay mga disabilities kay nay uban nga dili nila kaya, that is why ma-feel nila nga lahi jud sila. So, in order to address that, Tavares 2011 designed a program called Kids Are Kids,
which intends to develop positive impact on attitudes of children towards learners with physical disabilities and thus promote social inclusion. So, this is the Kids and Kids program. So, what is Kids and Kids program? Kids and Kids program provides family-centered holistic care to the community, enriching the lives of children and youth with special needs by helping them to reach their full potential. Number 1. Develop for children from grade 1 to 8 who are experiencing difficulties in their school. So this design is enough or sapat para matugunan ang mga pangangailangan ng bawat bata. So the second is, the target child is chosen through input from parents, child, and teacher. So, for example is what the learner is good at, so that the presenter or the consultant will seek or discover more about the child so that mabalaan nila kung unsa pa ang mga needs sa bata na kailangan nilang tugunan. Number 3. While the slides are discussing, the classmates are encouraged to share their thoughts about these statements, like children are similar in some ways, all children wants to have friends, children with disabilities can do all sorts of things. So, the goal is to make the class realize nga parihara ang katong mga kapansanan o walay kapansanan. It is because ang katong mga walay kapansanan is gusto po nila og more friends. In short, gusto nila og more attentions. Number 4. Highlighting children with disabilities interacting with other children and engaging in different social and recreational activities. So, gina-highlight diri no itong katong mga naikapansanan to interact with other children o mag-apil sa uban mga activities. Sa uban ng mga kalingawan, like kanang mga kalingawan sa mga walay disabilities, gina-encourage ang mga disabilities nga makiki-interact sa ila so that ma-feel sa mga disabilities nga belong sila or dili sila lahi. 5. Specific information about the child disability is provided and classmates are encouraged to ask questions. So, di na uban scenario nga makiki-interact ang katong mga walay disabilities sa mga disabilities so that ang katong mga disabilities is dili maulaw makiki-interact sa ila ha. Or di ba mag-ask sila questions or okay ra ba sila or kung musugot ba sila nga makihalubilo sa inyo ha. So dili ma-feel sa mga naikapansanan nga lahi sila. So that's all. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. I am Marjal Mantilla. Now we are on our chapter 12 of our Prof Ed 102 class. The lesson for today's discussion is about the learners with difficulty remembering and focusing. Pag-usapan natin kung ano ba ang mga learning disabilities at ang kanilang characteristics and types. May mga mag-aaral na sa kabila ng sapat at angkop na pagtuturo at kahit mayroon silang karaniwang antas ng katalinuhan, ay nahihirapan pa rin na makapag-focus o tumuon at pag-alala sa kanilang pinag-aralan. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, defines specific learning disability as a disability in one or more of the basic psychological processes involved in understanding or in using language, whether spoken or written, that may manifest in terms of imperfect ability to listen, think, speak, read, write, spell, or to perform mathematical calculations. The following criteria are usually being considered, according to Howard, Albert Morgan, and Conrad 2017. First, the severe discrepancy between one's intellectual ability and academic achievement. Second, the learner's difficulties are not the result of another known condition that can cause learning problems. And third, there is a need for special educational services. On the other hand, the National Joint Commission on Learning Disabilities, or NJCLD, defines learning disabilities as a general term referring to a heterogeneous group of disabilities manifested by significant difficulties in acquiring and using listening, speaking, reading, writing, reasoning, or mathematical abilities. At ayon pa sa kanila, na ang learning disabilities ay sanhi ng dysfunction ng central nervous system na nakakaapekto sa kung paano makihalubilo ang isang tao at paano rin siya mag-control ng kanyang sarili, na nakakaapekto rin sa kanilang pananaw sa mga bagay-bagay. Kung mayroon man daw na mga iba pang kondisyon gaya ng emotional disturbances at mga impluensya tulad ng cultural differences, inappropriate or inadequate instruction, hindi ito maaaring maging direktang sanhi ng learning disabilities. Another definition is given by the American Psychiatric Association, or APA. It is usually used in clinical and diagnostic settings. Instead of learning disabilities, it uses the term learning disorders. So, the American Psychiatric Association defines learning disabilities as a neurodevelopmental disorders which hinders one's ability to learn academic skills. Learners diagnosed with specific learning disorders perform below average in terms of reading, writing, or mathematics. Now let us talk about the characteristics and description of learners with learning disability. First is written language deficits. So when we say written language deficits, it affects the learner's ability in terms of mechanics of writing. For example, spelling, punctuating is way below what is expected of their age. Sa written language deficits, ang mga mag-aaral ay nahihirapan ding ipahayag ang kanilang mga ideya sa pamamagitan ng pagsulat. Next is math underachievement. Math underachievement, learners have significant difficulty in terms of retrieving number facts and solving story problems. Learners also perform poorly than their peers doing math problems. Another one is the poor social skills. So, learners with learning disability, they are prone to interpersonal problems which often lead to rejection, low social status, unpleasant interaction with teachers, difficulty making friends, and loneliness. Another characteristics, a description of learner with this learning disability is reading problems, or also known as dyslexia. Learners have difficulties with accurate and or fluent word recognition, and by poor spelling and decoding abilities. Next is the attention deficit and hyperactivity. Description. They have difficulty paying attention to a particular task or become overly active. It is possible that a learner who exhibits this may have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Halimbawa, ang isang mag-aaral ay hindi nakikinig habang nagtuturo ang kanyang guro at aligaga siya, meron siyang ibang ginagawa, yung kanyang focus. So, malamang hindi niya talaga matatandaan at hindi niya maunawaan kung ano yung tinuturo ng guro niya. Another characteristic of learners with the learning disability is behavior problems. Incidences of behavior problems among those with learning disability are higher than usual. Yung mga kabataan naman na may ganitong mga kondisyon ay nakikita na madalas silang napapahamak sa kasi ginagawa nila yung mga bisyo gaya ng paninigarilyo, pagsusugal, at nagiging agresibo rin ang kanilang ugali. The last characteristic is the low self-esteem or self-efficacy. Learners with learning disability are more likely to have low self-efficacy, mood, effort, and hope than their peers. Mas mahina yung kanilang belief sa kanyang sarili. Now let's move on to the specifiers and diagnosis of learning disorders provided by the American Psychiatric Association 2013. So they call it with impairment in reading or dyslexia, word reading accuracy, reading rate or fluency, reading comprehension. Next is with impairment in expression, spelling accuracy, grammar, punctuation accuracy, clarity or organization of written expressions. The third is with impairment in mathematics, or also called dyscalculia. This specifier is the number sense, memorization of arithmetic facts is affected accuracy or fluent calculations. Accurate math reasoning is also affected by this diagnosis. Severity may also be classified as mild, moderate, and severe. When we say mild, some difficulties in learning skills in one or two domains, but the learner is able to compensate with appropriate accommodations or support services. So only one or two domains are being able to compensate with appropriate accommodations or support services. Next is moderate. Mark difficulties learning skills in one or more academic domains that the learner is unlikely to become proficient without some intervals of intensive and specialized teaching in school. So without support and accommodation, they cannot cope with one or more academic domains. Next is severe. When I say severe difficulties in learning skills in several academic domains that the learner is unlikely to learn those skills without ongoing intensive individualized and specialized teaching in school. So they need to be monitored individually. They have to be supported by the teachers because the severe condition is affecting mostly the academic skills of this student. These characteristics and conditions of learning disabilities affects the learners in terms of auditory and visual information. Kahit pa magkakaiba ang mga characteristics, conditions presented, or disorders presented, isa ang maging epekto nito sa mga mag-aaral. Magkakaroon sila ng low academic achievement, kahit pa sapat naman at naangkop yung pagtuturo, at kahit pa mayroon silang average level of intelligence. And this is the end of my discussion. Thank you guys for listening and stay tuned for more discussions.
So after Ms. Margie Mantilla discusses about the characteristics of learners with learning disability, let's proceed to the possible causes of learning disabilities. So, bakit may mga nagkakaroon ng learning disabilities? The first possible cause is the heredity. So, when you say heredity, it runs from the family. So, heredity, it is uncommon for one with learning disabilities to have parents or other relatives with the same condition. But they can be genetic. That means they can be passed down in the family through the genes, like many other traits we get from our parents and grandparents. Someone with learning problem probably has other family members who have had some learning troubles too. So, heredity, it is, if dili siya sa isa ka family makuha, it is also came from our grandparents, mga kalululuhan pa, or isa sa atong relatives na naingana nga condition. The second possible cause is the problems during pregnancy and birth. Before birth, things can happen to the central nervous system, the brain and spinal cord that can cause a learning disability. A child can be born with a learning disability if the mother has an accident or illness while she is pregnant. It could be caused by low birth weight, lack of oxygen, drug and alcohol use during pregnancy, and premature or prolonged labor. So, ito ang mga maaring problema habang nagbubuntis ang isang ina. At ito ang mga dahilan ng pagkakaroon ng learning disability ng mga bata pagkaanak. The third cause is the incident after birth. It could also be due to head injuries, nutritional deprivation, and exposure to toxic substances such as lead.
So mostly, people become more people can become exposed to lead through occupational and environmental sources, because lead exposures can have serious consequences for the health of children. At high levels of exposure to lead, the brain and central nervous system can be severely damaged, causing coma, convulsions, and even death. So children who survive severe lead poisoning may be left with permanent intellectual disability and behavioral disorders. So these are the possible cause na maaring maging resulta ng aksidente pagkatapos manganak. So after the causes, next is the identification and assessment of learners with disabilities. So why there is a need of identification and assessment of learners with disability? So, identification and assessment of learners with disability are essential to provide tailored support, ensure inclusive learning environments, and uphold legal mandates like Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And there are three methods in identification and assessment of learners with disabilities. The first method is the Intelligence and Achievement Test. Standardized IQ tests and individual achievement tests are typically administered during referral process. Often called IQ tests, most commonly used to diagnose a learning disability, formally referred to as intellectual quotient tests. IQ tests come in many forms. They can help diagnose intellectual disabilities or measure someone's intellectual potential. But when considering IQ testing, doctors should be your first point of contact. There are the common types of IQ tests. First is the law test, the Woodcock-Johnson third test of achievement. Third is the Wechsler individual achievement test. Frequently administered reading achievement test and norm reference test that assess mathematics achievement. The second method is the criterion reference test. It compares a person's knowledge or skills against a predetermined standard. Each person's performance is compared directly to the standard without considering how other students perform on the test. So, what is the difference between non-reference test and criterion reference test? So, a norm reference test compares the test takers' score to a representative group or norming group and reports where the tester falls in relationship to other testers. The criterion reference test, on the other hand, compares a tester's scores to an objective standard or criteria. The last is the curriculum-based measurement. It is a formative assessment method that provides information on students' learning as instruction takes place over time. So, curriculum-based management is a method teachers use to find out how students are progressing in basic areas such as math, reading, and writing, and spelling. So that's all about my topic. Thank you.
Good day everyone. So today I will be discussing the Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder or ADHD. So ADHD is a disorder that affects the brain
Hello everyone, I am Camila Herandoy from BEd 1A, and today I am going to tackle about the natural causes of ADHD. The first thing that we have to discuss is, what is ADHD? ADHD is an attention deficit or hyperactivity disorder. It is one of the most common mental disorders affecting children. The symptoms of ADHD include inattention, not being able to keep focus, hyperactivity or excess movement that is not fit into the setting, and impulsivity or hasty acts that occur in the moment without thought. Now that you know what is ADHD, let's proceed to the natural causes of ADHD. The first thing is the genetics. ADHD comes from genetics. ADHD tends to run in families, and in most cases, it's thought that genes you inherit from your parents are a significant factor in developing the condition. In addition to genetics, scientists are studying other possible causes and risk factors, and it includes brain injury, exposure to environmental risks, for example, during pregnancy or at a young age, alcohol and tobacco use during pregnancy, premature delivery, and the last one is the low birth weight. So, how can ADHD be identified? There is no simple test to determine whether you or your child has ADHD, but your specialist can make an accurate diagnosis after a detailed assessment. The assessment may include a physical examination, which can help rule out other possible causes for the symptom, and the last one is a series of interviews with you or your child. Let's proceed to the treatment. Standard treatment for ADHD in children include medications, behavior therapy, counseling, and education services. These treatments can relieve many of the symptoms of ADHD, but they don't cure it. It may take some time to determine what works best for your child. So, to those persons who didn't know what is typical and atypical, well, typical means you use typical to describe someone or something that shows the most usual characteristic or a particular type of person or thing, and is therefore a good example of that type. While atypical means not conforming to the type, irregular or abnormal. For example, an atypical behavior, or a flower atypical of the species. So, is ADHD typical or atypical development? Our findings suggest atypical developmental trajectories of white matter tracks in ADHD, characterized by normalization and possible compensatory neuroplastic processes with the age from childhood to early adulthood. Thank you for watching.